Good evening, all. You are welcome to yet another journey towards your financial freedom, towards learning how to create your own money rather than work for money, and to build your wealth and to live the life of your dreams and become a change maker in the society. So basically, today we are going to discuss about lesson 2. Lesson 2 on financial literacy. We say basically financial literacy is the key to your freedom on earth. It is a key to your financial freedom on earth. The first lesson we treated was that the rich don't work for money. They use their money to work for them. For the second lesson, that is lesson 2, we'll discuss about why teach financial literacy. That is the importance or the rationale behind financial literacy. And the simple answer there is that it is not how much money you make, it is how much money you keep that determines your wealth. But of course, as most of us have been doing in the past, we believe it is how much money that comes in, but we keep on getting more money, and we still find out that there is no money to solve our problems. So today we will learn that it is not how much money you make, but it is how much money you keep. But before we go into details about lesson 2, I just want to briefly have a recap of what we discussed in our first lesson. And the recap here is something I would want to basically illustrate to you through this picture. Remember, our first lesson is that the rich don't work for money. They use their money to work for them, whereas the poor and the middle class work for money, and that is why they are trapped in the rat race. So just see this picture. We have a donkey, a cart with the wealth inside the cart, and then this is the carrot. The carrot is the money, and then you are the donkey. Just picture yourself as a donkey. You can see from the environment, there is nobody here. There is no government, there is no parents, there is no religion, there is no ethnicity, there is no devil, there is nothing like bad luck. You brought yourself into this trap, and only you can get yourself out of this trap. And that is why, even as you learn further about some of these secrets, it is not something that you should hold a very negative feeling towards any person. Because you remember, before you started this training on financial literacy, I told you that you must accept the fact that you are personally responsible for your problem. You will get to discover that all these people, the government, employers, they are just simply mechanisms at which you are expected to utilize to create your own wealth. And so if you stand and look at them as the means at which you would get money to solve your financial problems, then you get yourself trapped. So the money, the carrot here is the money. You go out, you go to work every day, you get yourself trapped, you are working, they give you carrots, and then you keep on walking. You are just walking straight in one direction. If only your eyes could turn back and see what is happening here, then you will know that this pattern of going out to work for somebody to give you money is not the solution. So even while you are working for somebody, what you should be doing there is trying to learn how to make wealth, learn how to create wealth. Because as human beings, the only thing that can clear our ignorance is learning. So rather than going out and having the feeling that you are going out to work so that you can be paid, even when you don't like that job, even when you feel the job is taking your time, you don't have time for your family, you don't have time to go for holidays, to chill out. But then the fear of you not having money is what makes you go out every day to get yourself in this trap, the trap of rat race, the trap of poverty. And the more carrots they give to you, the more money they give to you, the more harder you would want to work. And you don't know that you are just assisting someone to build his own wealth. Each and every individual, each and every human being is expected to build his own wealth. If you work for money, you are just building another person's wealth. So even if you are going to work, you should work to learn and not work for money. So this is the general idea of the rat race. That is the principle that the rich normally use, and that is why they are where they are today. So going into our major discussion for today, which is the second lesson, which is the major reason why we should teach financial literacy. And it is because it is not how much money you get, it is how much money you keep that matters. So too many people are too focused on money and not on their greatest wealth, their education. If people are prepared to be flexible, keep an open mind and learn, they will grow richer and richer despite tough changes. If they think money will solve problems, they would have a rough ride. Intelligence solves problems and produces money. Money without financial intelligence is money soon gone. It is not how much money you make, it is how much you keep and how many generations you keep. This is why you need to master financial literacy. That is the only key. Accounting. Other times you hear it as accounting and finance, but let's just use the word accounting. This course, accounting, is possibly the most confusing, boring subject in the world because it has to do with calculations. But if you want to be rich long term, it could be the most important subject. That is the most important subject. The best way to teach accounting is to make it simple by teaching it in pictures and few words. Then in later years, you begin adding numbers. Rich people acquire assets, while the poor and middle class acquire liabilities that they think are assets. This is another thing you need to understand. Rich people acquire assets, while the poor and middle class acquire liabilities that they think are assets. So what the poor and the middle class acquire are liabilities, but as for them, they think that, it is an asset. They will tell you that you build a house to live in is an asset. Tell you buy a car, it's an asset. They tell you get married, give birth to children, plenty, it's an asset. No. If you don't understand the difference between an asset and a liability, then you are likely to fall under the trap just as the poor and middle class, because they go with the majority and they buy things that are liabilities rather than assets. So if you want to be rich, this is all you need to know. It is rule number one. It is the only rule. This may sound absolutely simple, but most people have no idea how profound this rule is. Most people struggle financially because they do not know the difference between an asset and a liability. However, the difference is simple. That is why the idea is missed. You know, anything that is simple in another way sounds difficult for the person to see. All you need to know is what an asset is, acquire them, and you'll be rich. Know what an asset is, acquire them, and you will be rich. Know what liabilities are, limit your liabilities. Because I mentioned car, I mentioned house, I mentioned children. I'm not saying that you should not get any of these things. They are part of life. They are there for you to enjoy. Anything that you've ever thought of to enjoy, yes, you can still enjoy it. But the way you go about doing the whole thing matters. So that is why you need to understand the difference between an asset and a liability. As an adult, you will have difficulty explaining it to other adults. The simplicity of the idea escapes them because they have been educated differently. They were taught by other educated professionals such as bankers, accountants, real estate agents, financial planners, and so forth. The difficulty comes in asking adults to unlearn or become children again. An intelligent adult often feels it is demeaning to pay attention to simplistic definitions. You can start seeing this whole thing now. It is because it is very simple. That is why when I posted the first article I wrote that drew the attention of most of you to come in and learn more, is because the whole thing is simple. You understand, if you check all those fundamental questions I raised, the 10 of them, it is more of like completely opposite of what you used to know. So when an adult hears that, you feel, what this boy is trying to tell me is that I don't even know anything, regardless of the number of years I've lived on this earth. I don't even know anything. All the things that I know in life are just completely opposite. So you can see that it is because it is so simple, and that is why the whole thing is being missed. I posted it on my status, on WhatsApp, on Facebook, and on Instagram. More than 400 persons read it, but only few of you, about just 15 or 17 of you, that just came forward and said you want to learn more. And I can tell you that you made the right decision, because you would never have regret at the end of our training. So even when you're explaining this to some other adults and you find out that they're just arguing with you, don't argue back, because you understand what their problem is. You don't have any reason to be angry against anybody. You know, live just a peaceful, simple life while you're just working to create your own wealth. So the reason why something so simple can be so screwed up is our basic education. We focus on the word literacy and not financial literacy, when the entire universe, each and every human being, the activities of each and every human being is centered around finance. We are all out there trying to look for finance to solve our problems, both the rich and the poor and the middle class. But the way the rich do their own is the complete opposite of how the poor and the middle class do. And that is what distinguishes them. So I implore you to learn further, and you'll get to know more. What defines an asset are not words, but numbers. And that is why I said accounting is very important. And if you can't read the numbers, you can't tell an asset from a hole in the ground. If you want to be rich, you've got to read and understand numbers. In teaching that, keep it simple and stupid. You would understand. So, to understand the difference between an asset and a liability, this is the basic thing you need to put into your mind. An asset is something that puts money into your pocket, while liability is something that removes money from your pocket. So when I said your children, your house, your car are liabilities, this is what I meant. Because if you consider it very well, this house that you felt you built with your own money, your own sweat, you gathered the money for like 10 years, 20 years before you built that house. At the end of the day, you definitely have to be maintaining the house. There are expenses that this house is taken from your pocket. So when you go out to work, you still bring money to spend on the house. And that is why your house is a liability. It is not as if you will not get the house, but you will get to understand why the house should come second rather than first. The same thing applies for your car and even your marriage, early marriage. If you know you're not prepared, you wait. Because when you give back to these children, you have to start spending on them. So that is why these things are considered as liabilities from the beginning. So any other thing that you know removes money from your pocket is a liability. And then anything that brings money into your pocket is an asset. The same house can be an asset. But if you take it this way, you built the house and then you put in tenants. Tenants are paying you monthly rent or yearly rent. You can see that that house that you built is creating money for you now and then. It is creating money for you every day. Even while you are not there, the money is working for you. So your house is an asset. If that car that you bought is so that somebody can be doing Uber and bringing back returns to you, it is an asset. But if you buy it so that you'll be moving yourself around, you'll be spending money on the car, buying fuel, repent it after some time, change some parts of the engine or any part of the car when it gets spoiled. So everything you are doing at the end of the day, you are working. At the end of the day is for you to come and be drained. Your blood will be sucked by these liabilities. Liabilities, like I told you, are our desires. They are still our desires. But knowing when to acquire liabilities is what distinguishes the rich and the poor. So this is illustrated with these diagrams. Let me show you the diagram. You can see it here. Yes, if you were not watching the screen, please kindly pay attention to the screen so that you see what I'm trying to explain. This is the cash flow pattern of an asset. Since we said an asset is something that brings money into your pocket. This is income statement where we have our income and we have our expenses. Income, the money that comes in, the expenses are things that you spend. For the assets, these are things that produce money for you and not yourself producing the money. For liabilities, you see it in the subsequent diagram, but this is the cash flow pattern of an asset. An asset creates money for you here, and then it brings the money as your income. But see the other picture, the cash flow pattern of a liability. This is the cash flow pattern of a liability. For a liability here, that car, those children, that house that you are maintaining it, that loan that you collected from the bank, they are liabilities. Because at the end of the day, money will have to come out from your pocket to service these liabilities. And then it goes as your expenses, and then pow, it disappears. You wonder, 2 years ago, you had 10 million there. Where is it? You cannot account for it. You cannot explain what you did with it. Even when you feel you've been investing, buying houses, you buy 3 houses, 10 houses, you have one in Kano, one in Abuja, one in Lagos, one in all these houses, you just leave them there and not staying there. They are liabilities because your effort going out to work for money will still be drained by these liabilities if you don't have assets that will support the liabilities. So basically, this is the cash flow pattern of a liability. So having a good understanding between the cash flow pattern of an asset and a liability is very well, because when you go out, it will be easy for you to distinguish between what an asset is and what a liability is, and the time at which you can acquire a liability. So income statement, as we saw in the diagram, is just a profit and loss statement. Because your income is your profit that comes in, your expenses is your loss. So income statement measures income and expenses, money in and money out. Whereas the balance sheet, the one under it, balances assets against liabilities. It is vital to know the relationship between the income statement and the balance sheet, and it is vital to understand that relationship. Because what determines whether you are wealthy or not is just this simple diagram, your income statement and your balance sheet. How much comes into your pocket, how much goes into your goes out of your pocket, and then how much your money is making for you, and then how much liabilities you have. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. This is really all you need to know. If you want to be rich, simply spend your life buying assets. If you want to be poor or middle class, spend your life buying liabilities. If you want to be rich and maintain your wealth, it is important to be financially literate in words as well as numbers. Because if you don't, you will just find out that you are living a miserable life, even when other people think you are rich. You just be deceiving yourself that you are rich, but that joy, that happiness, that peace of mind, that heaven nature you've always pictured, that world that you have no worries, would be missing, even when you have the money. And that is what a lot of people do, that they get themselves trapped. Even if you feel you are responsible in the society and you work, working is not the best solution. And then as for the irresponsible persons in the society, the who engage themselves in illegal activities or immoral activities like armed robbery, stealing, killing, in order to just get money or collect money from another person, it is equally not the best solution, because you just live your whole life in frustration, even when the money is there, because it is the money that is controlling your life. It is the money that is making you to go and do all those bad things, when you don't know that you as an individual human being can create your own wealth and live in your own paradise and live in all those happiness and joy you've always desired to have. In financial reporting, reading numbers is looking for the truth, the story of where the cash is flowing. In 80% of most families, the financial story paints a picture of a hard work to get ahead. It is not hard work. Often you hear people say the reward for hard work is hard work. Yes, that is what I just showed you with the donkey. When they give you more money because you feel you are hardworking, you just be increasing, and it's only hard work that you get. When you don't know that you are not even expected to work the way God created you, it's not for you to be working. At best, somebody would want to ask, what will happen if all of us become employers? Who would then do the work? So the answer would be that if majority of us become employers, it means our financial genius, this light in us, this genius in us, would wake up and look for means to create machines and computers that will be doing this work for us. We are not the ones who should be suffering our hands, suffering our time. We are not enjoying our time. It is machines that ought to be doing this work for us. So if you ask yourself, why do you want to take this path? It is not just for yourself to be free, but to equally liberate other people in the society, because we can achieve that. Once you take the step and you teach and explain it to your loved ones, they would equally follow that path. And there would be more jobs, and there will be more opportunities, and there will be less crimes in the society. And we will live to achieve the life of our dreams. But even when you see other people questioning you, criticizing you, just don't mind them. Just keep on moving, because you know where you are heading to. If they choose to remain as workers and keep on working for money, it is their own choice, and not because you did not tell them. So let's now look at the cash flow pattern of a poor person, a middle class person, and a rich person. Or yeah, if you are not looking at the screen, just see, so that you will get to understand what it means by the cash flow pattern of a poor person, the cash flow pattern of a middle class person, and the cash flow pattern of a rich person. So the first one here is the cash flow pattern of a poor person. Remember our income statement, our balance sheet, income, expenses, asset, liabilities. So for a poor man, his life just revolves around this income statement. You can see he's doing work. Maybe he's doing carpentry, mechanic work, other petty work, or even a small business owner. What you are doing there, that job that you are doing there, this is how your cash flow pattern is. When you do the job, they pay you salary. You consider that as income. This is how the salary goes. At the end of the day, it is drained by these expenses. You pay tax, because in some of the jobs, the tax will even be deducted and given to the government before you even see your salary. You will pay tax. And this tax does not just go from there, because the remaining money that you receive, when you go and buy other things that you are being moved by your desire, those taxes attached to consumer goods and even value-added tax, those tax of keeping money in the bank, withdrawing money from the bank, they are all considered as taxes. So in one way or the other, all this tax is rallying around the remaining income that you have, whereas you are the person suffering yourself doing this job. Another way the salary goes is through your rent. You pay your rent, and then another way it goes is through your food, because you have to feed yourself, you have to feed your family, and then you also have transportation, and then the clothes you wear. At the end of the day, where is the money? The money is gone. And all these things here are not things that produce income for you. Whereas you're spending your money on things that will just vanish. You will not see money again. This is the cash flow pattern of a poor person. From job, the salary gets drained through these expenses. It is not as if doing these things is not good. Paying your tax shows you are a patriotic citizen, but knowing when to pay the tax and which kind of taxes to pay is also important. Living or having your own house, whether it is rent to repairs, feeding yourself, transportation, clothes, they are all important. But if you keep on working as a poor man, this is how your life will revolve. You just see yourself complaining from one place to another, blaming people for your misfortune. For a poor man does not even have a balance sheet. You can see there are no assets, there are no liabilities. At times, you may have liabilities such as debt. You borrow money from somebody to pay back, or you borrow money from the bank to pay back. So this is the cash flow pattern of a poor person. Let's see the cash flow pattern of a middle-class person. Yes, a middle-class person, people like medical doctors, engineers, lawyers, and, architects, and any other person that you feel, yeah, is a middle-class person. Yeah, you see them, you feel as if they have money, they are rich, but in reality, they are not rich. They don't have that peace of mind. They can't even have more that they even desire. You can see, you have a job, whether it is your own law firm that you are managing. Once you go out every morning to that law firm, whether it is your hospital that you are managing, once you go out every morning to that hospital to work yourself, because you want the money, or you are working for somebody in that law firm, or that hospital, or that construction company. This is how your cash flow pattern is. From the job, it comes as a salary. Yes. Before the salary comes into your hand, the tax has already been removed. You have mortgage payments to do, because if you check under your balance sheet, you have mortgage here. Because most of the things under your liabilities are things that you use your money from your job to pay, which goes out as expenses. So for your mortgage payments, it is a payment for the mortgage. Yes, let's say, okay, a bank brought an advertisement for you that, yes, you can borrow money so that you would create a mortgage. You buy a house, and then you'll be doing your job so that they can be deducting it gradually every month from your salary with interest in favor of the bank. What you don't know is that all this job that you're doing, you're just doing it for the bank and your employer here. Because this is what happens. This is where you trap yourself. It is not the fault of the employer. It is not the fault of the bank. It is your own fault. Your salary comes in. Another expense is car payment. Maybe you also collected loan. I have 1 million naira. but this car that I want to buy is 2.5 million. So let me go and collect loan for 1.5 million. Since I now have a job, I can be paying back. That loan that you collected, the interest is what you use your blood and sweat to work for. You also have credit card payments, just this petty debt. Maybe you borrowed money to sponsor yourself in school. All these things, they will drain the money that comes in as your salary through your expenses. This is the cash flow pattern of a middle person. So you see him, you feel as if, he's rich. But you don't know that his life is just revolving around liabilities. He does not even have a single asset. So once this job is cut off, it means his whole world crumbles. He cannot do anything. All these liabilities, he can no longer manage them, and he reverses back to poverty. Well, let's see the third diagram, which is the cash flow pattern of a rich person. For a rich person, see how a rich person's cash flow pattern is. Under the income statement, for the income, he has income coming as rents. He has income coming as dividend. He has income coming as interest. He has income coming as royalties. All this income is coming from his asset. You can see a rich man does not have a job. There is nowhere a rich man is working. All this is his asset. This is why we say the rich man uses money to work for him. Because this is his asset. He has a real estate where people are renting, paying rent, and money comes in every year, every month, or weekly from that rent. It comes in as income. He's not there, but his money is working for him. He has stocks. He bought shares in the company. Yearly, money comes in for him as dividend. He is not there physically in the company, but he receives money from the company every month because he has shares, he has bought stock. Bonds is also an asset. Bonds is just simple and agreement. It's an agreement between you and the government where you would loan the government some money and they will use that money to go and print more money. They print all those fake carrots. And then after some time, you'll be paid back your money with some interest. So you can see that you are not the person working there. It is the money that you kept as bonds that will generate interest for you. That will generate interest for you. The same thing applies with business. If you have business that someone is managing for you, you're not there. Money will come in as interest. And then for your intellectual property, that is your God-given asset, the most fundamental one, because it is your intellectual property that you are using to work for somebody. Your intellectual property brings you income in form of royalties, things like patents. If you are a person who invented something, it means that any money that will be generated from that thing that you invented, it is your own. If you write a book, any money that comes out from selling that book is your own money. So you see that the book will just be there. The book that will be working for you. People will be buying the book every day and reading. Money will just be flowing in. You are not there, but it is working. Your money is working for you. So any other thing that you know, that if you place under this box, this asset box, will bring money into your income column. Buy it. Just keep on buying it. Because the more you buy it, the more your money grows. Any single dollar that comes in to your asset column is your employee. It is the money that will now become your slave because you will be in control of the money and not the money in control of you. Then you can see the liabilities of a rich person. And perhaps he has mortgage, but this mortgage here is not because he collected a loan to buy a house that he will be living, which is a liability, as we've seen from the income statement, from the balance sheet of a middle class person. For the rich person, he has the mortgage here, he collected loan from the bank to build this real estate. So as the tenants are paying rent, it is the rents from those tenants that he would use to be servicing the mortgage. And when he finished paying for the mortgage, this real estate is his own. So you can see that even without money, he went and borrowed money from the bank. He built this real estate, and it is the tenants who paid money for it by renting. It is from that money that he serviced the mortgage. And then the real estate becomes his own. And as he goes on, all the income coming from the rents will go into his income statement. That is an asset. But the liability he has here is the liability that will enable him acquire an asset, not a liability that will just make him keep on spending. So even consumer loans, perhaps just some few times, the rich man may collect loans, debts, but the most important thing is that he used that loan or the debt to acquire assets and not to acquire a liability. And even this credit card, and then you can even see that the liabilities is very low, unlike that of a middle-class person. It is the assets that the rich man concentrates on. And everything here, including the money that is being produced by the things that are inside here, becomes his own. So the more assets he acquires, the more richer he becomes. But for the poor man and the middle-class person, the more they work, the more poorer who stuck in the rat race they are. So this is just a basic graphical representation of the cash flow pattern of a poor person, that of a middle-class person, and that of a rich person. So it is the cash flow that tells the story of how a person handles their money. Money only accentuates or highlights the cash flow pattern running in your head. If your pattern is to spend everything you get, most likely an increase in cash will just result in an increase in spending because you cannot control yourself. So even if you have 10,000 today and you spend it all without investing, tomorrow, even if you have 50,000, that is how you would still do the same thing. You spend it all without investing, because the more money comes in, the more your desire grows. You want to get more bigger things. You want to get more finer things, and then you just get yourself trapped in such a way that you just be running on debt, or you have no option than to engage yourself in an illegal or immoral activity in order to create wealth, just like you see majority of other people are doing. So we go to school to get scholastic and professional skills, both of which are important. We learn to make money with our professional skills. Because students leave school without financial skills, millions of educated people pursue their profession successfully, but later find themselves struggling financially. They work harder or don't get ahead. What is missing from their education is not how to make money. What is missing from their education is not how to make money, but how to manage money. It's called financial aptitude. What you do with the money once you make it, how to keep people from taking it from you, how to keep it longer, and how to make that money work hard for you. That is basic thing you need to know about financial intelligence, financial aptitude. So what is missing from our educational system? It's not that they haven't taught us how to make the money, but it's just that the pattern in which they presented the whole thing is the most difficult, even when it is presented as the most simplest. Because they only taught us how to make money, but they didn't teach us how to maintain the money, or how to keep the money, or how to make the money grow. And that is what professional skills teaches us. I'm not saying it's not good to specialize as a doctor, a lawyer, a banker, an accountant, or an architect. All these professions are important because without them, we cannot thrive in the society. We cannot move forward. But what you need to understand, it is not just being aware of this field of study, but using that field of study to create wealth for yourself. And you cannot do that by working for money, because you will just be a slave to money. A person can be highly educated, professionally successful, and financially illiterate, These people often work harder than they need to because they learn how to work hard, but not how to have their money work hard for them. The number one expense for most people is taxes. Higher incomes cause higher taxes. That is the bracket creep. You feel as if, I've gotten a promotion. My salary is now 200,000. I used to collect 100,000, but my salary is now 200,000. So, I'm happy I can solve more financial problems. But you don't know that the higher your income, the higher your tax becomes. And the more you keep on working hard, the more you keep on paying taxes. That is the trap. So in order to avoid that, you have to remove yourself from that work cycle. But I'm not saying that you just wake up and then you just quit your job. No, since you've already found yourself inside that trap, all you need to do is to learn, concentrate and learn about these 6 life principles. Once you get a good grasp of them, then you can give yourself a time frame where you can decide to quit your job and become financially independent. So all too often, the poor and middle class allow the power of money to control them by simply getting up and working harder, failing to ask themselves if what they do makes sense. They shoot themselves in the foot as they leave for work every morning by not fully understanding money. The vast majority of people allow its awesome power to control them. If they use the power of the mirror, they would have asked themselves, does this actually make sense? All too often, instead of trusting their inner wisdom, the genius inside them, that light that God has created them with, most people follow the crowd. They do things because everybody else does them. They conform rather than question. Often, they mindlessly repeat what they have been told. Diversify. Your home is an asset. Your home is your biggest investment. You get a tax break for going into greater debt. Get a safe job. Save money. Don't make mistakes. Don't take risks. You're just following just some kind of old principles. You don't know that most of these things, they are opposite of what you are expected to do. If only you can shift your mindset from working for money, you would understand very well that all you've been doing is putting yourself into a trap because money is controlling you. You are a slave to money. You have to learn how to use your money to work for you. It is the money that should be your slave and not you being a slave to money. The fear of standing out, criticism, ridicule, and being considered as an outcast prevents most people from seeking new ways to solve their problems. Thus, they prefer to go with what the crowd is doing. Yes, you are afraid. You don't want people to say this. You don't want people to say that. If I don't marry, people will say this. If I don't do this, people will say this. If I don't give birth to kids now, people will say this. So they will ridicule me, they will laugh at me. So you are afraid because of all this criticism. Then before you know, you just push yourself and become a slave to money because you want to do what other people are doing. You want to go with the crowd. A rich person who probably left school at the age of 13 years holds meetings with his bankers, attorneys, accountants, brokers, investors, managers, and employees. Here is a man who had left school at 13, but now directing, instructing, ordering, and asking questions of educated people. People who felt school is the alpha and the omega. They come at his beck and call and cringe when he didn't approve of them. They are afraid of losing their job. You claim you are educated, but you don't know that you are just a slave to money. A rich man does not go along with the crowd, but do his own thinking and detest the words. We have to do it this way because that's the way everyone else does it. He also hates the word can't. If you want him to do something, just say, I don't think you can do it. This will provoke the genius inside him to find a way out. That is the thing. That is what the rich man does. A rich man does not believe that there is any word like can't. You remember I earlier on told you that there is nothing you cannot achieve as a human being. Nothing. Unless you did not channel your mind towards it, or unless you don't have passion for that thing. Once you understand these fundamental principles, once you are financially literate, you will see that everything is just so simple. So if you want a rich man to do something, just tell him that he can't. Once you sit down and think, because he's someone who learns, the answers are already there. Once you sit down and think, the solutions will come just like magic, but it is not magic. Even without using your physical body, your sweat and your blood to be working when you don't even know where you're heading to. All you need to do is to just sit down and learn how to use your money work for you. Most rich men are not book smart, but they are financially educated and successful as a result. An intelligent person hires people who are more intelligent than he is. Understand this. An intelligent person hires people who are more intelligent than he is. But between this intelligent person and the people who are more intelligent than him, the difference is that the intelligent person has wisdom. It is wisdom. Because even though you don't know as much as they know, but because you know what they don't know, that is very important. That gives you an edge. So what school tells you is that if you don't get good grades, you won't do well in the real world. School discourages creativity by telling you to follow set procedures and not deviate from the rules. Thus, schools were designed to produce good employees, slaves to money, instead of employers who are masters of money. So that is why we all need to understand that we are the masters, you are the master, because God has given you the authority and the control over any form of creature or natural resources on this earth. But if you keep on looking towards the direction of money, which is an illusion, you just get yourself trapped because of this same thing that you are meant to enjoy. But if you know how to use the money, you become the master and you still enjoy these things with joy, happiness, and happiness, and all the fulfillment you can think of. A house is a liability and not an asset because the cost of maintaining it removes money from your pocket. Houses do not always go up in value. Some people owe $1 million for a home that today will sell for far less. The greatest losses of all are those from missed opportunities. If all your money is tied up in your house, you may be forced to work harder because your money continues flowing out of your expense column instead of adding to the asset column. The classic middle class pattern, cash flow pattern has been set. If a young couple put more money into their asset column early on, their later years would be easier. Their assets would have grown and would be available to help cover expenses. So this is just the basic understanding that you need to get. Concentrate on your asset column, building your asset column to an extent that you know that the money that is being produced from your asset column will be sufficient to cover up your expenses. Once you understand this, you're already on your way to achieving great wealth, because the money inside that your asset will keep on producing more money for you. The end result in making a decision to own a house that is too expensive in lieu of starting an investment portfolio impacts an individual in at least the following 3 ways. Number one is loss of time. You will lose your time during which other assets would have grown in value, because all you do is you are working for money. You don't even have time to even think and be creative. Utilize that genius in you to create wealth for yourself. Your time has been wasted. And you remember the most precious thing in life is time. So when you do things that other persons can do for you, you are just shooting yourself in the leg. You have to learn how to use your money, work for you. And then the second one is loss of additional capital. This is capital which could have been invested instead of paying for high maintenance expenses related directly to you. Because the money you got from that work or that job you are doing, instead of it to go out there and produce more money for you, it is rather going out as expenses. And you've lost the additional capital that you would have reinvested in order to produce more money for you. So that is the second disadvantage. And then the third one is loss of education. Remember, I told you that learning is fundamental, is very key to any human being. So too often, people count their house and savings and retirement plans as all they have in their asset column because they have no money to invest. They simply don't invest. This costs them investment experience. Most never become what the investment world calls a sophisticated investor. And the best investments are usually first sold to sophisticated investors who then turn around and sell them to the people playing it safe. So these are the three things that you will lose when you stick yourself to be working for money. You will lose time, during which other assets should have grown. You would lose additional capital that you would have reinvested into your asset column, and then you will lose the opportunity to learn about investment. So I am not saying don't buy a house. What I am saying is that you should understand the difference between an asset and a liability. When I want a bigger house, I first buy assets that will generate the cash flow to pay for the house. It is as simple as that. If I want a television, I should generate an asset that will be sufficient to buy that television. It's as simple as that. So once that thing is not producing money for you, it is a liability and you have to keep it low. Concentrate on your asset. Financial statement of a poor man shows his income is equal to his expenses and his liabilities are larger than his assets, while financial statement of a rich man shows that his income is higher than his expenses and his assets are higher than the liabilities. So let me show you a brief graphical representation of the cash flow pattern of a rich man and a poor man. If you are not watching your screen, kindly watch so that you see what I'm trying to explain. Just observe. This is the poor man's financial statement. This is the rich man's financial statement. Under the poor man's financial statement, see his income. This is what comes from his job. Like this, almost like 50%. And then what he spends is equivalent to what comes in. And then under his balance sheet, he has no assets. So even if he has the assets are very small. And then see his liabilities, very big. So you just tuck yourself in there because this income that is coming is not sufficient to cover your expenses. Talk more of the expenses that comes out from your liabilities. But for the financial statement of a rich man, this is the income of a rich man. You can see how large it is. It's more of like 70%, whereas expenses is 30%. So for the income statement of a poor man, income is 50%. Expenses is also 50%. But for the income statement of a rich man, expenses is like 70%, income is like 70%, whereas expenses is just 30%. And then you can see the asset column of a rich man. You can see asset everywhere. Assets are things that produces money for him, And the more he keeps on reinvesting in this asset, the more the assets keep on growing, the more wealthier he becomes, the more richer he becomes. And then you can see his liabilities here. They are just very low. So if there is anything that he wants to include as part of this liability, he would have to make sure that he has increased the capacity of this asset before he purchases the thing that will stand in as liability. And that is just a simple secret. You can see why the poor man is poor, and you can see why the rich man is rich. So it is your own decision to make. It is not anybody that costs whatever financial challenges that you have been facing all this while. So, having seen that, the review of a rich man's financial statement shows why the rich get richer. The asset column generates more than enough income to cover expenses, with a balance reinvested into the asset column. The asset column continues to grow, and therefore the income it produces grows with it. The result is that the rich gets richer. The middle class finds itself in a constant state of financial struggle. Their primary income is through their salary. As their wages increase, so do their taxes. The expenses tend to increase in proportion to their salary increase. Hence, the phrase, the rat race. They treat their home as their primary asset instead of investing in income-producing asset. Income-producing asset. This pattern of treating your home as an investment and the philosophy that a pay raise means you can buy a larger home, or buy more houses, or spend more, is the foundation of today's debt-ridden society. Increased spending throws families into greater debt and into more financial uncertainty, even though they may be advancing in their jobs and receiving raises on a regular basis. This is high-risk living caused by weak financial education. They think as if they are moving, but they are not moving. Because if you have been following this lesson up to now, you would have understood that what they are doing or what you have been doing is completely out of place from what you intend to be doing or what you are expected to be doing. So today, mutual funds are popular because they supposedly represent safety. Average mutual fund buyers are too busy working to pay taxes and mortgages, save for their children's college and pay off credit cards. They do not have time to study investing, so they rely on the expertise of the manager of a mutual fund. Also, because the mutual fund includes many different types of investments, they feel their money is safer because it is diversified. This educated middle class subscribes to the dogma, but dogma put out by mutual fund brokers and financial planners. Play it safe, avoid risks, come and save your money. The more you save your money, the less invaluable the money becomes. If you receive 100,000 today and you save it in the bank, I can assure you that in the next 1 year, the value of that 100,000 would have reduced into 50,000, because every day, every year, the prices of goods and services keep on increasing. You remember when I gave you the illustration of how a doctor increased his own professional fee, a lawyer did it, a teacher did it, and that's what's happening in the society. You see us calling up for strike. Their salary should be increased. Teachers going on strike, doctors going on strike. Everybody wants more money. And the more you keep on increasing their salary, the more they keep on getting trapped. Because all they do is that they acquire liabilities rather than acquiring assets. So the reason they have to play it safe is because their financial positions are timid. That is, their financial position is weak. Their balance sheets are not balanced. Instead, they are loaded with liabilities and have no real asset that generate income. Typically, their only source of income is their paycheck. Their livelihood becomes entirely dependent on their employer. So when genuine deals of a lifetime come along, these people can't take advantage of them because they are working so hard, are taxed to the maximum, and are loaded with debt. That is poverty. That is suffering. So you need to understand this. Once you understand the difference between an asset and a liability, concentrate your effort on buying income-generating assets. That is the best way to get started to your path to becoming rich. Keep doing that and your asset column will grow. Keep liabilities and expenses down so more money is available to continue pouring into the asset column. Soon, the asset base will be so deep and you can afford to look at more speculative investments. Investment that may have returns of 100% to infinity. You can invest like $5,000 and then soon turn it into $1 million or more. Investment that the middle class calls too risky. The investment is not risky for the financially literate. School has made you to believe that making mistakes shouldn't be part of your life. But the way human being has been structured is that we learn by mistake. And that is why even when you've been given back to, when you stand up the first time you want to walk, you find out that you fall down. You wake up the same time, and the second time you try, you fall down. The third time you fall down. But as you keep on doing it, you find out that you would master it and then you know how to walk. But what school is telling you is that, once you stand up this first time and you find out that you fall, don't even try to even check that. Don't even try to even make yourself learn how to walk again. But no, the ideal way is that we learn by mistakes. Failures should be our motivation, because whenever you fail, you should know that, there is something that you have missed. So it means you need to go and learn more about it. And once you learn, you find out that you improve. And once you learn, you keep on improving. That is just a secret. Or they say, no, don't do this business. So you will be looking after the business for you. People would eat your money. If you are financially literate, if you have financial intelligence, you would know how to handle these businesses without you running at loss, like other poor and middle class persons are doing because of their lack of financial literacy. So if you do what the masses do, that is work hard for money, you will get the following picture. If you are not looking at the screen, kindly look so that you would understand what I'm saying here. This is what I'm saying. If you are doing what the poor and middle class people are doing, that is working for money, you have this. Check your income statements. You work for the company. Salary. You have used your intellectual capacity, your genius. You work for the company. All you get is money, your salary. From that salary, the government tax you, because the company would even remove the tax and remit it to the government even before your salary gets into your hand. That is why when you are employed, you may be shown that your salary is 200,000. But at the end of the month, what you'll be collecting is just 150,000, because the other one goes in form of tax. And other taxes that comes through things that you buy, all those houses that you buy, all those cars that you buy, all those consumer goods that you consume. In one way or the other, there is tax hovering over them. So wherever your money is going, apart from the tax that has been removed to pay the government from your salary, other things that you spend your money on, other expenses, other liabilities that you spend your money on, there are taxes hovering around them. In one way or the other, it reduces your effort. It reduces the effort that you've done working for that money, because it goes through taxes. And that means you are working for the government, because your income, you are working for the company, your expenses, you are working for the government through taxes. Salary, taxes. Then let's see your balance sheet. Your asset, you don't have anything here. There is nothing that will generate money for you as an income. You are just relying on this employer, this company, for salary. That is the carrot, which goes out through your expenses. The government receives their share as taxes. At the end of the day, there is nothing left for you. And then see your liabilities under your balance sheet. You work for the bank through mortgage, because you collected loan to buy that house. You collected loan to buy that car. And then as you collect your salary, as the government has removed their salary, their taxes, when you are paying back money for that mortgage with interest in favor of the bank, it means your effort at working here as a job person goes to the bank. So you see, the company, the government, and the bank, and you are left with nothing. So that is the simple thing that you just need to understand. If you do what other poor masses do, or the middle class people do, this is what you will get. This is where your efforts are going to. Your company, you're helping your company to build their own assets. You are helping the government through tax. You are helping banks through mortgage. So you need to stop what you are doing. But before you do that, you make sure that you have already created asset for yourself. So as an employee who is also a homeowner, your working efforts are generally as follows. Work for the company. If you work for a company, you would make the business owner or the shareholders rich, not yourself. Your effort and success will help provide for the owner's success and retirement. If you work for the government, they will take their share from your paycheck before you even see it. By working harder, you simply increase the amount of taxes taken by the government. Most people work from January to December just for the government. For the third one, for the bank, if you work for the bank, after taxes, your next largest expense is usually your mortgage or your credit card debt. So all you are doing, you are just working for company, government, and bank, and not yourself. The problem with simply working harder is that each of these three levels takes a greater share of your increased effort. You need to learn how to have your increased efforts benefit you and your family directly. Once you have decided to concentrate on minding your own business, focusing your effort on acquiring assets instead of a bigger paycheck, how do you set your goals? When will you know that you are rich, that you have wealth? Wealth is your ability to survive so many number of days forward. Or if you stop working today, how long can you survive? Wealth measures how much money your money is making and therefore your financial survivability. Wealth is not how much your job or your physical body is generating for you, but wealth is how much money your money is making for you. And how much can you survive? How many days forward? If you stop working today, how many days forward can you survive? So for instance, let's say wealth is the measure of the cash flow from the asset column compared with the expense column. So you consider yourself as a wealthy person once your asset column, income generated from your asset column, is higher, cover for your expenses with remaining balance that can be reinvested into your asset column. So let's use an example. Let's say you have cash flow from your asset column of $1,000 a month, and you have monthly expenses of $2,000. What is your wealth? Using wealth definition of how many days forward can you survive. Assuming a 30-day month, you have enough cash flow for half a month. Because I said your income is $1,000, your expenses is $2,000. That means you can only survive for the next 15 days. You cannot even reach 1 month. You worked for 30 days, 1 month to get $1,000. But within 15 days, that $1,000 have disappeared. And you still need more money in order to cover the remaining 15 days. So you find yourself just working more harder in order to meet up, just suffering yourself. So when you achieve $2,000 a month cash flow from your asset, then you will be wealthy. So while you are not yet rich, you are wealthy. You now have income generated from assets each month that fully cover your monthly expenses. If you want to increase your expenses, you must, there is no other way, you must increase your cash flow to maintain this level of wealth. So if I want more luxuries, then it means I have to increase my assets that can be able to purchase those luxuries for me. That is just a simple understanding that you need to have. Also note that it is at this point that you are no longer dependent on your wages. You have focused on and been successful in building an asset column. That has made you financially independent. If you quit your job today, you will be able to cover your monthly expenses with the cash flow from your asset. So in determining when to even quit from your job, if you're already doing a work, if you already have a job that you're doing now, no problem. What you should be doing now is just shift your mind from that money aspect. Just behave that you are working, or understand that you are working there to learn, So even when the salary comes in, you are not so enticed because your attention is on the learning and not the money. So when the money comes in, with your knowledge of acquiring assets, what you do is that you shift more of the money into your asset column, and then smaller part of the money to go for your expenses. So you have to know how to reduce your expenses in such a way that the income coming can be able to cover it, while you are investing the remaining balance of the income into your asset column. So once you find out that you have reached that state, it means you are financially independent. And if you want to increase your expenses or increase the luxuries, all those good desires that you have, you want to enjoy, then you have to increase your assets. Your next goal would be to have the excess cash flow from your asset reinvested into your asset column. The more money that goes into your asset column, the more your asset column grows. The more your asset grows, the more your cash flow grows. And as long as you keep your expenses less than the cash flow from these assets, you grow richer with more and more income from sources other than your physical labor. Physical labor. You are not meant to use your physical labor. You are just meant to use your mind. You are just meant to use your brain. You are just meant to think, and you can create any level of wealth that you want. But you will get trapped in that rat race if you allow yourself in this pattern of what you're going to work for money. As the reinvestment process continues, you are well on your way to becoming rich. So just remember this simple observation. The rich buy assets. The poor only have expenses. The middle class buy liabilities they think are assets. The rich buy assets. The poor only have expenses. The middle class buy liabilities they think are assets. So how do you start minding your own business? What is the answer? We will see the answer in lesson 3. Because lesson 3 will basically be about minding your own business. But for now, just as a way of recap, understand that the reason why you should be financially literate is not because you don't know how to even make money through your job, but because you don't know how to keep the money. You don't know how to use the money. That has been the problem. So once you learn this, you find out that even if you have $0 in your account, you will still see yourself as a rich person. At best, you can only say, I am broke at the moment, but you know that you are a rich person because you know how to create wealth. So we'll still meet during our next lesson, which is lesson 3. That is minding your own business. Thank you for your time, and thank you for making it possible for this change initiative to go on, because without you, I don't think that we'll be able to propagate the gospel in such a way that it will reach majority of people and save them from this thing called poverty, set them free, set them to the promised land. Because with your financial literacy, you can lead yourself to the promised land. So this is why you need to be financially literate. Thank you.